I think that the execution of an artistic exhibition, like an artist exhibition, is a synergistic endeavor. You know, it takes a vision from a curator, it takes the support of a gallery and a gallerist, and, you know, like facilitation of relationships, development of relationships, and an artist has to bring some critical work, you know, and in a commercial aspect, work that sells. So that's where the idea of kind of collective solid came from. The potential for an exhibition to really benefit everybody involved. And everybody has some kind of voice or role in it that is presented publicly for a larger audience to kind of understand and enjoy and learn from. But in terms of ERS, this is a collective of extremely talented artists. So it's also a showcase of that work.
So I got into ERS, well, it wasn't called ERS when I got in there. It was like 2006 or 2007. I graduated from a school in New York and came back to Houston for an exhibition. And I was planning to like figure out where to go next, and I never left again. But in the meantime, I found out about this cool warehouse space that this guy named Juan Alonso was kind of trying to shape up. And it was very raw at that point. And so he and I and another guy for a bit were working to like try to craft it into, you know, a place that people could come and build their work and, you know, hopefully progress forward. And it was real dicey at points, but, you know, through especially his perseverance, it's turned into, I think, like a very stable and like a very fruitful space. And so I was there from, I think I'll say it's 2006 to 2009, living there, working on building out the space. And then I transitioned out, but in the meantime, you know, I got to know some of these guys.
I came in and everything was all set, so it was like I didn't have to endure anything that you did, luckily. You know, I just create my own obstacles, basically. But awesome. when I came in the space, everything was kind of like, it was just a layup for me, you know, so everything was laid out perfectly. Like I had this, infinite amount of space to do anything I wanted to, so.
And how do you think that had like a direct effect on the kind of experiments that you started doing on a larger scale?
Yeah, I think so, because like, when people think of a dark room, they're just, you know, think of developing or making photographs in like set trays and, you know, set sizes and that kind of thing, and then, you know, I started making these huge pieces because I had all this room, you know, it's just, you have this huge space to work in, so you just try to maximize it. So just making these giant, oversized photographs, so.
Space to literally throw your chemistry around.
Yeah, it's, poor Darwin. Darwin and I share a studio space, and it's just, he'll tell you, it's interesting.
And then JJ, when did you come into the mix? Not to leave you out.
No worries. I came into the mix about a year ago. I moved into the ERS about a year ago, but I came on board whenever Juan started the Alonso Gallery, and I saw Juan asked me to be in the Alonso or in a show at the Alonso, and I saw him hanging all this work by himself. And so we kind of started talking, and I helped him hang, and he was like, "Oh, you have another spot on the east side," and these guys were just doing something that I wanted to be a part of. They're very motivating young guys to be around, and so it just kind of like propelled me to like start helping everyone at ERS. And I've been curating shows since I was 19. I just turned 31. So for me to have like a constant space where I can use my curatorial tools and things that I've learned over the years has just been really great.
So I went to school for photography in Baltimore. And met Dylan, and I was looking for a place to move, so he was like, hey, Houston's cheap, you can come to the studio for nothing. I was like, all right, that sounds good. So I've been here for like 3 years, and I was plugged right into El Rincon from the start when I got here, and we were actually sharing a small, like 15 by 20 studio space, and both doing metal work and trying to make like big sculptures in there. So
It was pretty small for you guys.
yeah, it was kind of ridiculous. So then we built another space in the main warehouse, you know, for me to use. But then what happened? What do you mean? Then I filled it up with junk again, which is kind of what happens. Like I collect a lot of trash, and it hangs around, and it makes its way into my work.
Yeah, that's everyone.
That's everyone. That's what's great about having
That's
a
a
huge
common
space,
thread.
is you don't have to worry about getting in anyone's way with the trash.
It's like everyone's space is full of like a little picking salvage yard.
And some there,
Yeah.
and it mixes together sometimes.
It's weird because like I see Darwin's paintings hanging in the galleries and stuff, and it's the very same paintings that I accidentally step on. You know, when we're in the studio together. Yeah. He's like, oh, it's okay. That comes on.
One of my favorite parts about having the community factor of El Rincon, which is the whole point of the group, is just being able to walk out of your studio at any point, and you know, you can be in your studio for however many hours, 3 hours, 9 hours, and whoever happens to be around that day or at that time, you can go and ask them, hey, like, do you think this should be like, you know, at this angle or at this angle, or it just is so nice to have other people around that you trust and have a really trained critical eye that can offer extremely helpful feedback. That's one of my favorite parts about El Rincon.
I'll say that also. He's actually asked. I remember like one time I was at the space. I think it was just you and I there. You were making something, and like, hey David, you're knocking on the door. He's like, come check this out. So, do you think I should do it like this or like this, or you know? And I remember just saying, I really liked both ways, but I kind of made like a decision on one or the other, and you went with it, and it was just like, I was just, it was just weird. I was holy shit. He's
Well,
just
you
like
just took
this.
pictures, though.
Yeah, exactly. I'm like, why? It was just so weird, but just feeling that, you know, like the I guess the trust level. You know,
Yeah,
it was-
absolutely.
Yeah.
It's great to have all these guys around, because again, I'm self-taught, and so like I don't have like that critical eye. It's just like, this looks good to me. So, but then I can come to like Darwin and ask about composition, and he can talk about composition with me, and so I learn a little bit more, blah blah blah. So it's pretty great to have like that many people around all the time that have went to school, or like have like somewhat of a formal education in what they're doing, or like Dave is also self-taught like I am.
Yeah, I'm kind of the exact same, pretty much echoing what he's saying now. Like, no art school whatsoever. Just, I just figured out, you know, I really loved photography, and I just thought that, you know, maybe I could be good at it, and just went crazy with it. So, and then, you know, meeting these guys and like getting all the input and just feedback, and just seeing how they work, and kind of using, you know, their input and stuff just to kind of progress. But it's the same thing for me as far as what JJ was saying.
I think it's important, like, to know also that everybody's really good at one thing. Like, everybody has different places, like, they're good at, like, crafts. So, like, if I need something, like, I need to know a little bit about woodwork, I go to Alex. You know what I mean? If I need to know, you know, just compositionally, if I have a question about color, metalwork, and it works the same way for everybody. It's like, hey, what do you think?
That's the other cool thing about ERS, is that like Juan is so open to like letting other people come, even if you don't have a studio there. Like I've never seen him like take money from someone if they want to use the dark room or to paint it, or if you need to use the ERS for the weekend to make a painting, like Juan will give you a garage door clicker and a key and like let you do your thing, and that's the great thing about Juan. Like I think without Juan Alonso, like ERS wouldn't be what it is, for sure.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned Juan, because I think a lot of these spaces in the past that have come up through Houston's history have had someone like a Juan. The University of Houston, early parts of Lawndale had James Searles, and others, had Jim Harithis, or even, Seesaw had a few artists that sort of like mentored the other artists, or actually made that space available, or rented the space.
Like a visionary, like the visionary force behind it, or like the coach.
Yeah, and even John Gill with letting those artists rent Box 13 and set that up. There's always someone who's sort of the energy behind it. So I'm glad you talked about Juan's role in this, because I think without that person, these opportunities don't become available.
I think sometimes we forget how the role that he plays, because he's with me. We're good friends, and we talk all the time. So it's like,
Well, there's a lot of other people. I mean, it's not just, this group. There's a lot of different artists who've gone through the space, shown in the space.
Yeah.
And I'm fairly new to the community again, coming back and being with so long. But I don't even know the list.
It's a big list.
Patrick knows,
Yeah.
he's been here longer than me, but a lot of different artists have gone
It's
through
probably
the
been like
space
50 or more
and
people.
moved on.
The purpose of this gallery and why we have it is to use it as a forum and a mechanism to promote artists. So that's the whole purpose of it. And I was saying to, I think, Patrick outside yesterday that, any gallery is just empty walls if it isn't for the essence and the depth and the significance and the concepts of the artist. So, I feel that, the whole art world wouldn't exist if it wasn't for artists. And, we have to always kind of keep that in mind, that yes, there's the patrons and the institutions and the museums and the writers and how we all interrelate, but we all should be interrelating to support the artists and what their voice is and how that contributes to the world so much, and how positive it is. And, with this particular group, I became very excited to support this project, not only in my deep belief in Teresa, and her, and really, trusting and believing her, but how excited she got me about the project. That, it's very fresh. You guys are something very unique in that you're collaborating, but you have your own individuality, but then you collaborate so well. Think about, any kind of major movement throughout the world, that whether it was pop or, going even to some of our own artists, like in Russia, who started the St. Petersburg New Academy, that it was started with a foundation just like this, just like Pete touched on, even in the history of Houston. So yeah, like I'm just as honored to have all of you here as you feel good about being here. And my biggest joy is when we can actualize artists' dreams and bring them to their full potential in terms of where they can be, and then how that supports the Houston community. So if we have a line of contacts internationally, and we can just, through social media and all our contacts and such, help people understand more what you're doing in other places, and that's not only good for Houston, but it's of course good for you, but it makes me feel like we have a purpose that we're achieving and contributing in some way.
ERS not only has founded a community, but it exists within a larger community in the East End that is changing dynamically and rapidly. So this exhibition hopes to spotlight that moment that says ERS is a culturally relevant space. From my perspective, my thinking about it is, in terms of a curator, is I don't know of any other spaces in the city that operate the way ERS does. Because every generation seems to have a warehouse space, an alternative space that has produced a significant amount of like work and talent and kind of these rumblings of an art movement. In our generation, for our generation, that's ERS.